Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing out there today? Y'all probably saw that little grimace that I just did. Man, I hope you guys are feeling better than I am today. As part of my position with the Coast Guard, I have to run a PT test every 6 months. That's minimum. Can be more often. It consists of a mile and a half run, push ups, sit ups, and while it's not extremely difficult to the individual who's in shape, man, let me just say, I'm not in the greatest of shape, even though I look like it. Oh, I'm sore today. Back hurts. Whatever these are, that's sore. Man, just don't let yourself get out of shape, especially if you find yourself in a position where you're required to work out as part of your job. But that's enough about me. In case you don't know, this is Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm going to continue talking about the SSI topic, and if I have time at the end, I'll address a couple of viewer comments. One of my viewers who was watching a previous video asked for a little bit more information about the whole SSI dynamic, and I had to take a step back and think about it. How would I talk about the topic? So, we already know what the term SSI means, service support inmate, and these are individuals who work around the penitentiary. They've been not so much hired, assigned to their position based on their skill set, their classification, so forth and so forth. Now, most of my experience dealt with the SSIs that worked back in segregation. The only time I really interacted with other SSIs around was during the OJT process, and whenever I would either work utility and have to work around other parts of the penitentiary, or the times that we had an overflow of seg bosses and I'd get assigned a general population. Then you would work with more of them. The ones that I worked with worked at the seg chow hall. They worked inside the seg pods. What else? One more. Oh, and the ones that worked in the ODR, which I already talked about in a couple of previous videos. If you want to hear about those, check out those videos. So we'll talk about more so the ones in seg that I worked with and the few times in general population. Now, SSIs, for the most part, are a necessary evil. Work has to get done around the penitentiary. Walls have to get painted. Holes have to get patched up. Plumbing would get backed up. Food has to get cooked. Laundry has to get done. Barber services, all that. COs do not do that work at all. The maintenance supervisors, they push a cart. Actually, their inmate workers would push the cart with whatever tools were in it, and when they got on scene, the inmates would do the work and the maintenance supervisor would supervise. The only times that I saw, this was SEG, the only times that the maintenance supervisor really did the work was if there was some kind of work that needed to be done inside the picket. That was a secured area. That was what controlled the doors, the locks. Obviously, inmates weren't allowed in there. They would stand outside, picket boss would let the maintenance supervisor in, door would close, maintenance supervisor would do the work, and then he would leave. There was an incident that took place, we're taught about this in the academy, called the Texas 7. A group of inmates took over a boss, got his uniform, posed as an officer, got inside the picket, took over that individual, released a bunch of cells. These guys were able to escape from the penitentiary. A couple of murders took place. They were eventually captured, but this is what really locked down things about uniform inventory, uniform control, locking procedures, going in and out of the picket. It caused a bunch of big changes in the penitentiary because of that incident. So, these inmates come with all kinds of different skill sets: plumbing, painting, construction, something they might have done back out in the free world, or something they've been trained to do there in the penitentiary. So they performed all different kinds of jobs. There was even a leatherworking office at the Styles. You could get up with an inmate. Wow, that sounded bad. You could meet with an inmate, describe to him what you wanted: a leather handcuff case holder, a leather key fob. That's a teardrop shaped kind of thing that hangs down from your belt, and it protects your pants from your keys that hang off of your belt. It's more of a decorative item, but it is a thing. What else? Belts. They could do all different kinds of belts, different thicknesses, different weaves, and these guys were good. Okay, I will say they were damn good at what they did. They would have the stuff on display in, what would you call it, the trophy case. They're just outside of the warden's office. I never actually had anything made. I know that you would somehow make contact with an offender, go into a contract with him. He would charge however much, we'll say $100 for a handcuff case. And you would put that on, after he made the item, you would put that on his books, just like his family or friends out in the free world would do. And you get the item from him. That always seemed a little bit shady to me, so I never went into any one of those deals. The ones that shine the boots in the barbershop, you'd set your boots down and they'd get to it whenever they got to it. Boots may sit there a week, 2 weeks. Usually supervisors had preference. But when they did get shined, they were good. I don't know if they had military experience or if they just had learned it over the years, but spit shining a boot is a big ordeal. I know how to do it. I've done it for years. It takes a while to get the shine built up, and when it's there, it looks phenomenal. You can look down at your boot and basically see your reflection in it. And that's how these guys could get these boots. So, very good at what they did. Barbers were also good. And the good thing about most of those services, you didn't have to pay for them. I don't know what the inmate got in return for the job. Some of them probably got time off their sentences. Some of them probably got paid some kind of a wage that would go toward their commissary. I'm not sure. I never got that deep into it with the SSIs. So, talking about the ones that I dealt with most of the time, the inmates that worked segregation, we didn't really need them. They were mainly there. They were turds. The ones I worked with, man, they were turds. Washington, the other guy whose name I can't remember, just big dude, glasses, he fucking hated me. And likewise, the same. What do we call it? Poncho? Poncho? Now, I gotta be careful how I say this. Poncho wasn't a bad dude. He was a bad dude, but I never had problems with him. He was always respectful to me. I was cordial to him. Any kind of trafficking and trading that he did, never caught him. But I know it took place. So the ones that worked in SSI, their main function was they'd come on in the block, pick up a broom, and they just start pushing a broom. When we pass out the Johnnies, that's the paper sacks that have the sandwiches or the eggs in, guys would ball up the paper and they'd throw it out. Or if they knew that a shakedown was coming, man, shit would come flying out of those cells just like dumping a garbage can out. CO's not going to go around and pick it up. SSI walks around, sweeps it up with a broom, puts it in a garbage bag, takes it out. And you're probably thinking that why the CO ain't going to do that? Fucking lazy piece of There's a show, I think it's called Behind Bars, The Rookie Years. It's a pretty good series. It was on A&E. You can look it up on YouTube, Google, whatever search you like to use. And there's an episode where a rookie CO is working with 2 jail inmates, and they're going out to one of the local parks, and they're taking out the trash. Well, this CO, he got kind of chummy with the guys, and he starts doing the work as well. He's taking trash out, and the inmate, and this is all on camera, the inmates were able to actually get some items, smuggle them out, and cause a security threat. The guy, I know there's more to it than that, but it's been a long time since I've seen the show. I'm just remembering bits and pieces. And the guy gets called in a supervisor's office, and they play the tape back for him and basically threaten to fire him if he does that again. He's not there to work with these guys. He's there to supervise these guys, and they do the work. So that kind of stems back to, if the CO's doing the work, who's supervising who at that point? The inmate's free to do whatever it is they're going to do. Now, the work that these guys did could typically be a guy's. They all had some kind of game they were going to run. And SEG, a lot of times, the guys that were pushing the brooms, they were passing information around. Guy in cell 84, needs to talk to guy over in cell 3. They're never going to physically get together. They're too far apart. He'll tell the SSI something. SSI pushes his broom all over the place, passes some information around. Cool. Or a guy slides something out of his cell. SSI takes it, hides it, however they did, works its way on down. If we caught these guys doing it, we're supposed to write an infraction for them. It's called trafficking and trading. Inmate passes this over to that guy, that's illegal. Trafficking and trading. They would ask us to do it all the time. Hey boss, can you pass this magazine over to my cell? No, can't do it. And then the beating and banging would get to going. You might think it's simple. Hey, here's a little magazine. Okay, I'll pass over the other guy. The way the cell doors were, they slid. And from the wall to the door was about that much of a gap. You could pass stuff through it. If you took a ramen noodle bag and you busted it up, you could pass that through there. Or the very bottom of the door was about you can't see that, about yay much of a gap. You couldn't really get your hand under, but these guys could traffic and trade all the time. They take their bed sheets, or they take the trousers from laundry, and they'd had an elastic waistband, and they'd take the string out of that elastic waistband, and they'd thread it through an empty toothpaste packet. There'd be some toothpaste in it, and they'd they'd smash it down flat. So they'd have the tube of toothpaste, and it had cord dangling from it. They could slide that out under their door. Inmate over in the next cell, he could slide his out as well, and the cords would get caught up in each other. Basically like two fishing lines getting caught out. And this guy would pull it back to his cell, and the other guy would have something tied onto the string, either busted up ramen noodles or candy from the commissary. Now the sun's coming out. Great. And this guy would pull this in, it'd go under the door and on into the next one. These guys could do it from the third tier in general population. In SEG, they go from the second tier, it'd fly over the handrail, hang down, guy would throw his out, snag it, and you'd be sitting there in the picket looking, and there goes 3 bags of soup running on down. Well, if it got caught up, a lot of times the SSI, as long as he knew he wasn't going to get caught, they could go over and help get that string over to where it needed to be. This is a bit off topic, but more so for individuals who are getting ready to go in there. If you see these lines flying around, don't grab it with your bare hand. Always have gloves on. You go to grab that line and try to pull it back from the guy, he may have shit, feces, vomit, any kind of bodily fluid, might have it smeared on that line. And what they'll do when they know that you're about to grab it, they're going to yank on it. And imagine a string getting pulled through your hand. It will cut. And then you can have whatever volatile fluid is on that, or it may just be you just get you a cut on your hand. And then everybody starts beating, banging, and hollering and yelling and getting into it. That's a little off topic, but I saw that happen quite a few times. In fact, I got to where I wouldn't even grab the strings. I'd just write up the cell that was doing it, trafficking and trading. So, these SSIs, they push brooms most of the day, clean up trash, take trash out. The individual I was talking about, the first one, Washington, he was this older guy, looked probably about 70-ish, was just as respectful as could be. Yes, sir. No, sir, Mr. Carter. Can I get anything for you, Mr. Carter? Do you need something out of the chow hall? You've been in that picket all day, Mr. Carter. Can I go get you a sandwich? No, 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 and no. Stop trying to do shit for me, dude. I didn't want them to do things for me because I didn't want to owe anything. But I knew a lot of bosses that did have them do stuff for them. How that played out, whatever. So that was that guy. Poncho, older Hispanic guy. Tattoos everywhere, all up on his neck, nothing on his face. And he was quick. He'd push the broom almost like at a running pace. They'd mop the floors, all that good stuff. The other guy I didn't like, I don't know how we developed this dislike of each other, but he'd bang on the door. I'd look at him and I'd leave him outside. Didn't even want to let him in. He'd bang on the door again. If I didn't let him in, he'd go to the supervisor's office, and then the supervisor would call me on the radio, basically ordering me to let this guy in. He'd bang on the door, shoot me this kind of nasty look, grab his broom, and start going to town. And if I was in a bad mood, I might lean my face over down to the slot and yell something at the guy. And then he'd turn around and yell something at me, and was that the right thing to do? No. Did I do it? Yes. What else? SSIs were all over the place. You had to have them. They were there to do the work, and not only were they there to do the work, they were the huge sources of trafficking and trading. Most of the older guys that had been SSIs for a long time, they were the true convicts. They would be cordial to the CO because they didn't want to cause any kind of infraction. They wanted to build up that trust. That didn't mean they were good dudes. They were going to traffic and trade just like anybody. Pass information, pass contraband off, make contraband to get passed off. The difference was when you caught a turd, when you caught an inmate in the battle of doing something, they do anything and everything they could to get out of it. Man, that wasn't me, that wasn't mine, I ain't doing nothing. You need to go back to doing what you're doing. Just try to talk you out of writing the case. Sometimes they'd plead with you, other times they would just threaten and just yell and holler, fake suicide, fake a heart attack, anything they could do to get you distracted from writing that case. Because they knew at the end of the day, when I came back the next day, I couldn't write a case. It had to be done on the same kind of work day. A convict, on the other hand, you catch him in a business, got me, boss. You got me. Write him up on his case, and what happened from there, happened from there. Maybe a little bit of time in SEG, loss of commissary time for a little while, reassignment, something of that nature. Convict was still going to traffic and trade, but when you caught them, they weren't going to fight back. However, it was extremely hard to catch a convict. You had to be a really seasoned CO who knew what the guys were doing, a rookie. You're not going to catch these guys. They've been doing it too long. They know what they're doing. The only other times that I really dealt with SSIs outside of SEG, like I said, were the times that I worked general population. I remember working utility a few times, and I would have to take this guy out back to where the back gate was. And I guess this would be basically what you would consider your sewer clean out. The guy would open the hatch. He had this basically like a hazmat suit on, plastic boots, plastic waders essentially. And he'd get in and he'd poke and prod, and it smelled just like sewage plant. And he'd get that thing open back up. How he got that job, I don't know. He was always miserable. Dude never talked to me. I probably wouldn't be in a good mood if my job was the shit cleaner outer. He'd get that thing unstopped, spray it out with the hose. It was a pressure washer type thing. Get it all blown out. Once he's done, take him back over to his area. Now move on to the next. The other one, there was a big trash compactor. And guys that were assigned over to the what would you call it? The state jail felony. It's either the GIST or the LeBlanc unit. You had there was a road. You had the Stiles, GIST was further back, LeBlanc faced the main road. And 3 of those guys would come over, and there'd be this huge cart with garbage bags on it. And my job was to stand there and watch them. They'd take these bags, they'd throw them in the big trash compactor, and they'd say, sir, could you turn that on? They couldn't operate the trash compactor, so I'd have to go and push the button. It'd compact all this shit down. Once they got done with the bags, that was it. Put the cart back where it was and go back from there. Why they couldn't do that on their own, I don't know. My job was just to push the button for these guys. After I was done with that, I'd go back over to SEG, see what other kind of utility duties I needed from that point, and go from there. The one thing the SSIs could not do in SEG, and it used to piss us off so bad, the biggest pain in the ass was trying to feed chow to these guys. We go to pass these trays out, and oh man, here we go. We get trays thrown at us. Guy didn't want this tray. One day he's a diet, the next day he's not a diet. Diet trays had different kind of food on it. They couldn't just take their tray, sit down and eat and give it back to you. It was always a pain. In general population, guys would go down the line, food service manager stood there, inmate working behind the tray, put the slop on the tray, give the tray to the guy, they'd go sit down. We asked so many times in turnout, why can't these SSIs pass these damn trays out? They do it over in Gen Pop. And the best reason that we got was there had been complaints that SSIs were poisoning the food trays, and that's why we had to be the ones to pass it out to them. To me, that was a bullshit reason. There was no reason why the SSIs couldn't do it. I know that makes it sound kind of lazy, but if you want to try it, put on a long sleeve shirt, a vest, put your little hairnet on, put your plastic gloves on, lug that tray carrier around with 7 trays or the 2 pitchers of juice, and start passing those trays out. Yeah, that food stank. It was nasty. You try it and you tell me how you enjoy it. That's why I didn't care doing it. Does that make me lazy? Does that make me weak? Whatever. So that's a brief topic, a brief touch on the whole SSI dynamic. What could make them difficult? Offenders were not supposed to supervise anything. They didn't have a ranking system. An offender was offender. CO was supposed to supervise the quote, the most senior, or the one that had the most seniority of the offenders. Well, a lot of these SSIs would develop entitlement. They thought that their position made them equals with COs or the guys that worked in the warden's office or assisted the supervisor. You tell them strip down, get ready for pat down. They tell you they'd already been stripped and patted down. A CO could stop an offender anywhere in the penitentiary, subject them to pat down. And these guys, most of them would comply. Now, they might have some choice words with you, but they're going to comply or it gets fun from there. These guys would try to lie and say, man, they already got patted down. I work in the warden's office. You just a rookie. Crap like that. Even if you weren't a rookie, they'd still call you one. So they could be difficult because of their sense of entitlement. What could make them dangerous is you had to be really careful about developing relationships. You work around these guys, you see them more often than any of the other ones, it could be easier to get kind of cordial with them. I told the story about how I was working in the room with the guy and we chatted back and forth and so forth and so forth. You had to be real careful what you said to these guys. With me, you'd always start off with, hey boss, you's in the military? Nah man, I play a lot of Call of Duty. Now that's lying to the guy. Shouldn't lie to him. However, you don't want to get personal. The easiest thing is just to say, man, let's keep the topic related to TDCJ business. And then, oh, here we go. Here's RoboCop. And here come those comments. So you just had to be real careful about developing a relationship with those guys because they try to use you for anything. You pass a magazine from a cell to the next cell on one day. Next day, they're asking you to pass food. Next day, mail. And then it goes from there. You just had to be real careful with that. That's pretty much the topic on SSIs that I've got from my perspective there. I hope it paints a little bit more of a clearer picture for the individuals who were interested in it. And moving on to a couple of the viewer comments, I had an individual ask if TDCJ does T-Col. T-Col used to be called T-Close. That's the agency that certifies. You got 2 things in Texas law enforcement wise. You have your certified peace officer. This is an individual who's been through an academy, they passed their test, they have their license now, and then you have a commissioned peace officer. Commissioned peace officer has been hired by an agency, police department, sheriff's department, has been sworn in, they have powers of arrest, firearms, yada yada. T-Col is the agency that certifies that. They have nothing to do with TDCJ. TDCJ is a totally separate process. A corrections officer's authority begins when they set foot into the penitentiary. When they leave, you have no further authority whatsoever. You're just a private citizen at that point. It's a different kind of a retirement system as well. So, no, you don't. One of my viewers was talking about she knows somebody, without getting too personal, She knows somebody going through the academy and was interested about the officer that I worked with that had a presence, meaning when he came on, inmates got a little bit more respectful. You develop that just by time and reputation alone. It's not going to happen in the first month at all. The rookie time is going to be the absolute worst. You're being tested by everyone, your fellow COs, the inmates. There's such a high turnover rate at TDCJ. The more veteran COs, they're less likely to really trust a new individual because they've seen so many new guys and gals come in and out of there. They don't want to invest their time in that individual. So they can seem extremely standoffish. It's not that they dislike the rookie, it's just the position that they're in, and they've seen so many of them come in and out. They don't want to invest the time in it. The rookie has to earn that. Now, some may disagree with that. That's just how it is. So the way you develop that presence is just in the type of CO that you are, how you go about doing your business, how you conduct yourself, and how you handle the inmates. It just takes time, and it's going to be different for everybody. Some officers never develop it, and they're just able to make their time. Others, they develop it early on, and it goes from there. And individual experiences may and will vary. The individuals who've graduated the academies that started before I was doing these videos, man, I hope you guys are doing well. I hope it's all going good. Comment down below on any of the videos. Let me know how things are going for you guys. I'd like to know how things are different. I can imagine with COVID, it's gotten way freaking worse. I'm pretty sure COs and offenders wear masks in there. I can only imagine what it would have been like trying to work in July, August, wearing a mask. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys. Folks, I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you made it to the end, thank you. I really appreciate that. Everyone take care of yourselves. Happy Friday. Enjoy this weekend we've got coming up. Let's get ready for Halloween. It's my favorite season of the year. Y'all take care.